Damage. So the damage roll passive is now. Oh my god. Oh, oh, they're never gonna die. Oh my god. We're never gonna be able to kill them. Let's see what we got here. So I've been told that they buffed every one of these, every one of the tanks in Overwatch for this patch. Let's see if, so the armor flat damage reduction is increased from 5 to 10 per projectile, and the enemy health bars now display when they're at the low health, at the low health threshold, pardon me. Tank roll passive, ultimate generation reduction increased from 30 to 40%, and knockback resistance reduced from 50 to 40%. Okay. I'm okay with these changes. It makes it so Lucio's boop isn't completely horrible. And I guess this is a way to try to like counter the counter swap meta going on right now. So, you know, you get your ults a little bit quicker. Unless, again, maybe I'm reading this wrong. I'm a little bit tired, who knows. But all right, moving on to one of my favorite tanks, D.Va. Looks like her defense matrix, the maximum duration is being increased from 3 to 3.5 seconds. The micro missiles are being increased from 4 to 5.5 damage. So from 126 to 153 direct damage with, okay. Oh, okay. Wow, that's a buff. Okay. Jesus fucking Christ. Okay. So two things to unpack here. The defense matrix kind of like it obviously does matter because another half seconds on DM. It's not as oppressive as it was on like the Overwatch 1 release D.Va when she had like 1 billion armor and a 6 or 8% or a 6 or 8 second defense matrix. I think it was 6. It was either 6 or 8, I can't remember. But obviously it's not that long anymore, but another half second is pretty big. You're going to be able to soak up a lot more damage, especially if you're just toggling back and forth. You can probably eat the majority of like a Mauga you can eat the majority of a Visor, Pharah's entire ultimate, things like that, you know? So obviously, defense matrix buff, good. They should definitely monitor this because that really does propel D.Va forward alongside these micro missiles. I don't think this is a huge buff aside from like super specific matchups. I think it's really going to matter against Brig. Just like with the last patch. The last patch, she had a buff specifically to her rocket boosters and specifically to shielded or to armored targets. That's mainly to do with Brig because it helped increase the lethal that she had on her. Because a lot of times, a lot of D.Va's matchups recently have been kind of rough. Like she doesn't really counter Winston as hard. She doesn't counter Brig, or the matchup between her and Brig is a lot more lopsided than it used to be. So that should help her help her against Brig and against Winston. That's what these buffs are really for. So you can burn down Winston's health a little bit more, and you can actually finish off. Finish off Brig. And obviously the defense matrix is going to be really good, especially in this kind of hit scan meta that we're in. Obviously Pharah's been really good for a little while now. So you would pick D.Va into Pharah because you can just harass her, you can follow her across the map, you can matrix all her shots. Obviously DM's gonna help, Micro Mist is gonna help, good buff for D.Va. Doomfist, the dev comment here says most of Doomfist's survivability is through his excellent mobility, but this boost to his passive overhealth generation will enable him to stay in the fight longer before disengaging, especially when hitting multiple targets with his abilities. The overhealth gain per target has been increased from 35 to 40 HP, and the delay before overhealed begins to drain is increased from 1 to 3 seconds. So I do like this in particular because a lot of times, especially like let's say like Doomfist gets hacked, like he'll do his damage, do his little power block, and then it'll just instantly start going down. So it'll be good for it to go down over time, like over 3 seconds as opposed to just instantly. So you pop your overshield, you put your shield up, you put your little thing up to block any like incoming burst damage. Even if you get hacked, that burst damage still comes. You still have that overshield to keep you in the fight a little bit longer. It's not like Roadhog level sustainability, but it's still going to be very worthwhile. Junker Queen, yet another, but did they actually just buff everyone? That's kind of insane. Okay. Dev comment reads, Junker Queen is relatively small and fast for a tank hero, so commanding shout doesn't need a ton of bonus health to be effective. The increased wound healing better rewards her for managing her abilities well. Okay. So they say that and then proceed to buff the commanding shout health. Okay, cool. I mean, it's 25 HP. It's not bad. It's definitely like a win more buff. The thing with Junker Queen is actually it might have been touched on right here. So the adrenaline wound, the damage, self-healing multiplier has been increased from 2 to 2.5. The thing with Junker Queen isn't even like the commanding shout. It isn't any of that per se. It's that for a while, the adrenaline rush, the wound healing didn't matter, if that makes sense. Like obviously it is a big boost, especially if you kill someone with the axe move that I can't remember off the top of my head. You get the reset from that. It is obviously a big boost, but when you compare it to other characters that do really like to stay in the fight for a longer period of time that can consistently pump out damage, you're thinking of a Roadhog that doesn't get hit by an anti grenade. You're thinking of a Reinhardt that can just keep swinging. Even like a Maga or a Ramatra. Junker Queen kind of has that, but it really, for one, it requires her to actually get her axe off, which seldom is she actually doing that unless you full combo and get that done perfectly. And again, on top of that, and then her cooldowns are really, really long unless you land like a 5-man slash, which again, seldom does that ever happen unless you're sprinting to the point and you get to a choke before everyone, you're able to get like a little cheap shot off. That doesn't really happen. Like your axe is still going to be on like a 7-8 second cooldown. So the adrenaline rush should help you like in between that cooldown time to be a little bit more effective and keep you in the fight for a little bit longer. Whether or not it's going to be practical or not, we're going to see how that happens in game. Like 25 HP and 2.5 healing, it's a buff. It's not the best thing in the world. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it helps to get her on the right track for sure. Malga, this is a lot. Okay, this is taking up the entire screen. What the fuck did they do to him? What? Jesus Christ. All right, dev comment reads that Cardiac Overdrive is Malga's primary tanking ability that allows him to keep in the fight. But the previous duration was difficult to counter. Yeah, you don't fucking say. Now a more potent effect with a shorter duration to increase the importance of choosing both the right time to use or the right moment to use it as Malga and when to try mitigating it as an enemy. Okay, so the overrun, they buffed the damage because why not? Sure. I don't get it. I mean, the damage buff here kind of makes sense when you compare it to like the other overhealth, quote unquote, that people are getting here. But again, sure. This is like a win more buff. Seldom will you notice it. Maybe like once every couple of games, like, oh wow, that actually killed them. A lot of the times you're not really engaging with overrun unless you have your ultimate, unless you have like other ults to follow up with it. Most of the time, from what I see, you're overrunning back to your team, kind of like a Reinhardt charge. So again, maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? Cardiac Overdrive duration reduced from 5 to 3 seconds. Thank God. Life still increased from 60 to 100%. What? Okay. Yeah, sure. Damage reduction increased from 30 to 40%. Sure. Allies now only receive half the lifesteal and the damage reduction effect value. Okay. So yeah. Okay. So overall, you're not gonna see like the lifesteal and the damage reduction is gonna be nerfed for your teammates, but most of the time, Malga's really just using it for himself. Like it's definitely like it is an added bonus for if you're running like a brawl comp or if you're just running like a. If you're running like I won't say like a death ball comp because that doesn't really exist nowadays. I don't know. I don't know why they're buffing him. I don't think Malga needs to be changed at all. But also, I do like that it's only 3 seconds. The lasting 3 seconds is a lot better than 5, but also the lifesteal being 100% is insane. Like you're gonna basically need to have Alna now, which I'm not so many question marks on this patch. Like I'm not sure why they're choosing to buff everyone. All right, and here's our daily Orisa buff. Dev comment reads, the Fortify and Javelin spin abilities were weakened further than necessary when Orisa was overly dominant. She has not been performing well since then, but in this patch where we're broadly adjusting how powerful the role is, so there is room to... What is this writing, by the way? Did they chat GPT this? What the fuck? So there is room again to return some of Fortify's effectiveness. This is our monthly jumping back and forth between whether Fortify is going to be 3.5 to 4 seconds. You've seen this before. So for Ramatra, the dev comment reads, the pummel damage adjustment is notable as it reduces the number of punches required to knock out a 250 health hero. Excuse me. So that is true. So for starters, the Nemesis form bonus armor is being increased from 225 to 300, which is big because you scroll all the way back up here again. The armor, the reduction was increased again. So here we are. All right. They're just going to be raid bosses, and that's fine. The pummel damage being increased from 60 to 65 is big because before you would it's like they said, if you were 1v1ing a 250 HP hero, you would have to hit him what 5 times. Now you can just hit him 4 times. Pretty big for Ramatra. He's actually going to be able to 1v1 certain characters. It's also like, how practical is it going to be most of the times? You know, again, nice buff. I'm trying to think of all the 250 heroes that are actually going to be trying to contest Ramatra in a 1v1. Like, seldom are you ever going to... I think Soldier can probably just run out of it, like, realistically. If Soldier's at full HP, he should be able to just, like, zigzag and run away from Ramatra. I think Cassidy might be doomed, even with his role. Reaper can probably still try to 1v1 him, but again, if he's in Nemesis form, these pellets don't really... I'm pretty sure they reduce the damage for pellets too in the last patch. So yeah, I mean, overall, good buff for Ramatra. Reinhardt, oh Jesus, this is a long ass dev comment. This is all probably just copium because this hero is horrible. One of the core design goals for Reinhardt is to be the hero that shields his team. Wow, you don't say. In the past, we've reduced the barrier health significantly in order to improve the other offensive aspects of this kit to better fit the fast-paced gameplay of Overwatch 2, but perhaps it was too much. We still want to avoid barriers feeling mandatory due to how useful they can be and to keep tank diversity at a healthy level. However, with this patch, looking at the tank role in particular, we're increasing Reinhardt's barrier health again, and we'll evaluate further. So the max HP for your shield has been increased from 1400 to 1600, and the barrier regeneration rate has been increased from 140 to 160 per second. I'm okay with that. Reinhardt, again, I always say that Reinhardt's biggest thing, like the biggest problem with Reinhardt isn't all the offensive parts of his kit, because they can keep buffing them as much as they want, but it doesn't change his core weaknesses, being that Reinhardt doesn't peel for his team as well as he should in Overwatch 2, even if he like tries his very best due to, one, as I just did here, his shield health just being really, really, really low when he's the only shield tank on a team at any given point unless you're playing an open queue. And that's really it. Like, he can't, like, unless you're charging back to your team, your only method of peel is a shield that's attached to you. It's not like Sigma where you can adjust his barrier and then keep moving it and doing all that. Like, Reinhardt is the weaker out of the two shield tanks in this game. He can't really like instantly peel like a Winston or like a D.Va can. He can't instantly remove someone that's flanking or out of position like a Roadhog can. And even still, he can't really push the offensive like a Rissa can unless he has an entire team dedicated to it, like a Lucio or like a Baptiste. So overall, again, I do like these changes. It's putting Reinhardt in a better direction. I don't think that it's again going to change the glaring problems that's wrong with Reinhardt, being that in a game like Overwatch 2, he still doesn't really have that identity. I know that they want to, like, yeah, he is the shield tank, but especially like just looking at the past meta, right? Most of these characters are flyers. Like, you're not really doing that much against Pharah, against Echo, against D.Va. He gets eaten alive by Malga. Like, the 200 HP against his shield, does that really stop it from, like, does Malga really care about that? Not necessarily, but again, we'll see how that goes. Roadhog, the dev comment reads, the Pigpen ability wasn't very useful outside of being used in the chain hook combo, so we're increasing its potential threat if an enemy stays within its area. The thing is that this is only... Before I start talking shit, let me at least read it. Pigpen, the area damage after activating is being increased from 30 to 45 damage per second. The recovery time is being reduced from 0.55 to 0.44 seconds. The cooldown now immediately begins instead of when used instead of after a short delay. That's fair. So the thing is that none of this matters because of what they said right here. It's not very useful outside of being used in the chain hook combo because that's the only time you're going to use it. It's not like a Junkrat trap where you can use it to deny... You can use it to like deny an entrance. Like, Roadhog as a hero relies on, one, can you hit your hook, and two, can you do either significant damage or can you one-shot the person that you hook? The Pigpen, like, this 30-45 damage per second adds more because it increases that lethal threshold. You know, you don't have to hook, drag them in, walk forward, shoot, melee, do all that. You can drag them into the Pigpen and just, you know, do that. And that's fine. You know, you're not putting, like, it's like they want to treat this Pigpen as like a Junkrat trap, but that's just fundamentally not how that part of the kit works. Because as Roadhog, you need all the damage you can get because that's your main source of, you're not a shield tank. You have you have a self heal and you have damage reduction. But aside from that, if he isn't hitting his hook and he's not doing as much damage as he can in this combo, he's useless. That's just how that character works. So I disagree with why they're doing it, but the increased damage on it is good. Again, it helps increase the lethal threshold, so that's nice. All right. Sigma, the dev comment reads that Sigma is a tank that does not currently have an issue with survivability when cycling between managing his barrier, kinetic grasp, and weapon range. True, I think that Sigma is like probably the most... It's weird. I think Sigma is probably like the most balanced tank as of right now. He's not overpowered. He's not bad per se. He's like right in that he can basically fit into almost anything aside from like a really low healing comp, and even so he can still survive that. I like Sigma right now. We are, however, increasing the damage of accretion to bring back more of the threat it used to pose and increase the satisfaction in landing it, as it did not benefit from the global increase to projectile sizes. True. Imagine if Sigma's rock got increased. Oh my god, that'd be horrible during that patch. All right, so the impact damage increased from 40 to 8. Okay, Big Rock Sigma is back on the menu. So that probably, especially, does that change? Can he actually one-shot switchy characters again? No. I'm trying to think. If you rock and then that's math that I don't feel like doing right now. Nice buff for Sigma. That's what I'm going to say about it for now. Dev comment for Winston reads that Winston is one of the top performing tanks at the moment, though when considering how satisfying the individual... Considering how satisfying the individual abilities within his kit are the Tesla cannon secondary fire felt underwhelming for how long it took to charge, so now it'll be a bit more fluid. We also still want primal rage mode Winston to be killable, but adding some health to it will avoid some of the extreme situations where it could happen too quickly. Okay, so the Tesla cannon, the secondary fire time is being reduced from 1 second to 0.85 seconds, and the primal rage max HP is being increased from 500 to 700. I don't know why they said, oh yeah, Winston's the top performing tank, so we're gonna buff him twice. What? Okay. Fair enough. I think this is going to be big. I thought a couple of patches ago, or last patch, whenever it was, that the Junker Queen spin up time for her rampage wasn't going to be big, but when you actually play it, it comes off. You can feel the difference, and even if you're on the opposing side, that 0.15 seconds, that does matter. So, you're gonna be able to pump out a little bit more damage. There'll also be times when you're about to shoot someone around the corner. That 0.15 seconds, again, it doesn't feel like that much, but that 0.15 seconds, that can quite literally be the difference between your ankle getting around the corner and you living, or your ankle not being around the corner and dying. So we'll see how that goes out. Primal, this is 200 HP. Most of the time, Winston's either gonna get slept or he's just gonna get burned down anyway. 200 HP isn't like laughable, but I don't know. I feel like most of the time, if you're popping primal, it's either you either know you're gonna get out, or you're just popping it to waste some time. So I don't think the end result is gonna change. I don't think that he's just gonna like suddenly average less deaths now because this primal went up by 200 HP. I think that specifically whenever they pop ult, it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna stall this point and die for it and have a little bit more, and get us a little bit more time on this point, or I'm going to pop it and then get out with like 300 HP left, do a double jump back to my supports, and then live anyway. So I don't think that's going to, I don't think situationally that's going to change at all. Moving over to Wrecking Ball, they actually just buffed every fucking tank. Okay, whatever. The dev comment for the hamster reads that he has excellent survivability and mobility and will be more efficient in transferring some of that survivability to his teammates should he choose to return to them. Also making the automatic reload in ball form match the manual reload. I swear I read this before. Like verbatim. I'm pretty sure they said this at some point, right? All in all, quality of life change for the quad cannons. That's nice. The adaptive shield being increased by 50%. Also pretty nice. Not just, not just for, it's like the patch note said, it's not just for the survivability of him, it's for his teammates should he go back to his backline instead of just grabbing a health pack. So that's nice. I'm okay with this because most of the time Wrecking Ball is a rare, like he is a high skill ceiling and a high skill 4 hero. Most of the people that are going to be doing this are going to be min-maxing it anyway. So they're going to feel that increase 50%, and the teammates are also going to feel that increase 50%. So I'm cool with that. I like that. Zarya, my precious, the dev comment reads, increasing the health on these barriers also means the total energy Zarya can gain per barrier is increased. This is the boost of both her offensive and defensive capabilities. So the particle barrier is just her self bubble. The health is being increased from 2 to 225. The duration is being increased to 2 from 2 to 2.5. The projected barrier is also being increased. That's her teammate barrier. Increased from 200 to 225, and the duration from 2 to 2.5 seconds. I feel like this is a revert. Like, it's been a while, but I'm pretty sure it was already 2.5 seconds, and then they nerfed it to 2. So this is like they're reverting it to 2.5. Maybe it was 2.25 and they nerfed it to 2. I can't remember. But either way, I feel like this is, I feel like it was already at this point at some point when she was just terrorizing everyone. Damage. So the damage roll passive is now, oh my god. Oh, gee, oh, they're never gonna die. Oh my god. We're never going to be able to kill them. So the damage roll passive is now only half as effective against tank heroes. Oh my god. Oh. Okay. Oh, what are we doing? What are we doing? They're never going to die now. Every one of these was durability. So you're telling me that this bastard has 100% lifesteal for 3 seconds, 30% reduced damage, and I only reduce his healing by 10%. All right, you got it, bro. All right, okay, yeah. Dev comment for Ash. Okay, I don't even want to fucking read these anymore. Like, I don't even want to. What? Oh my god. Dev comment for Ash reads that this big Omnic Butler, also known as Bob, tanks a lot of incoming fire and will now be resistant to knockbacks and critical damage. So Bob now gains the tank passive roll ability. I'm pretty sure he's the only character in the game with 2 different passive rolls. So he has the DPS passive and the tank passive, which is cool. Especially nowadays, you can basically just melt Bob, and it's kind of sad. Gives you more of a reason to actually play Ash, so that's cool. Nice little buff for Bob. Looking over to Cassidy, dev comment reads that with his current tuning, Cassidy is performing well in 2 minutes. Okay. in too many aspects between his range, burst damage, and survivability, leading him to be a dominant choice among the damage heroes by an overwhelming amount. I disagree, but let me read. Maybe they cooked. The gameplay goal for Cassidy is to be the sturdier, close-range hit scan who is more proficient at dealing with high-mobility flankers. With this in mind, we're pulling back the effective fall-off range for his weapon to help align him with those gameplay goals and open up more hero variety from the damage roll. So his Peacekeeper, also just known as, his gun, the primary fall-off range rescaled from 25 to 35 meters to 20 to 30 meters. So the thing with Cassidy being like proficient at dealing with high mobility flankers, that was a thing like maybe 7 years ago, especially now with a lot of other characters just having soft CC. Cassidy's flashbang being one of the few things, it's not even hard CC anymore, right? In the original Overwatch, it was just a stun, so it would cancel Moira ult, it would stun Reinhardt shields if you moved it up, it would stun Genji's. Nowadays, like, saying that he's supposed to be the close range hit scan that can deal with high mobility flankers, like, realistically, you're not really gonna, like, you're only hitting maybe a Sombra who's like within 10, like, who's directly next to you. You're not really gonna be hitting a Tracer that much. Like, the only, like, super high mobility flankers, per se, that you're really going to be using your flashbang on is going to be Venture, or it's going to be other tanks. So it's going to be, like, Winston, if he doesn't put his bubble up quick enough. It's going to be Wrecking Ball when he's in the middle of his pile driver. Or Diva, assuming that she isn't brain dead in defense matrices, Like, the reason why a lot of people were picking Cassidy, especially because this flying lady has been in meta for so long, is because the other characters, the other hit scan, weren't good. Like, Ashe didn't feel good to play, mainly because, again, whenever, like, Kiriko right now is also really good, and most of Ashe's kit being her dynamite, like, that's her primary damage ability aside from just shooting people. Like, it doesn't feel good whenever you throw your dynamite out, it just instantly gets cleansed. Like, Soldier is decent, but a lot of Soldier's damage is just gonna come from shooting frontline. Like, Widow's good, but especially, like, is she going to be able to deal with Pharah with this super high mobility just being able to dive you? Not necessarily. Cassie's really just been the only consistent DPS when it comes to hit scan, and then on top of that, he just got buffed last patch. And even still, the buff was just a damage reduction when he pops his high noon. So it's not even like he's performing super well in his range, burst damage, and survivability. It might just be his survivability and that every other hit scan sucks. That's just my personal opinion on it. But yeah, this will be an interesting nerf. Especially with this change to Bob, it might incentivize people to actually play Ashe again. But even still, you play Ashe, most of the time you're gonna be met with Kiriko, who's gonna have an even better, like, a more of a reason to play, because people are gonna play Ana, because people are gonna play Malga. So it's just gonna go right back to not mattering, in my opinion. Moving on. Pharah, the terrorist of every elo bracket this past patch. She was something like, I forgot what her win rate was. It's like 58 or something insanely stupid. 58% win rate Pharah, mind you, without a Mercy being attached to her, because with her recent rework, she's able to have more independent movement. She's just able to perform a lot better, and she's not just like a free flying kill like she was before. But the problem with Pharah is, well, so the dev comment reads that this is a reversion to Pharah's concussive blast from before her recent rework, dealing even a small amount of damage with this ability increases. Exactly, this is part of the issue. So the concussive blast being 30 damage really, it buffed her a bit too much, because now instead of like needing 2, 3, 4 shots, or like needing 3 or 4 shots, maybe 5 shots to kill someone reliably, she would just need 2. Like, she would need a direct, a splash, and then the concussive blast, and then it would just work, That's one of the things, aside from her jets being like really quiet. Like, Pharah would just 2-shot you or 3-shot you, and there's not that much counterplay aside from knowing exactly where she's going to be, which you wouldn't necessarily know unless you were, 1, just actively looking for her and looking at every single flank route, or 2, you heard her, which seldom do you, because her jets, again, are really quiet. So looking at the concussive blast, the explosion damage has been reduced from 30 to 0, thank God. The explosion knockback radius has been increased from 6 to 8 meters, and the knockback itself has been increased by 11%. So they're making this more of like the utility thing that it should have been. So again, this is just a straight up revert, which I'm okay with. Moving on to support, and here we have Ana. The dev comment reads, rather small change here, but we'd like to minimize the amount of times tanks can get taken out of, why are they buffing tanks again indirectly? Here we go. So for the sleep dart, the duration on tank heroes has been decreased from 3.5 to 3 seconds. Okay, like nothing matters. Like I don't understand why. I don't know. I thought personally, I thought 3.5 seconds was perfect. I thought that it was almost a perfect amount of time to keep you out of the fight. And most times, someone's waking you up anyway. Regardless, again, obviously the sleep dart nerf is gonna hurt Ana a bit, but she still has a really good kit besides that. Her biotic grenade's good. She has hit scan heals, she has projectile heals, she has the nano boost. Like Ana's gonna be fine realistically. And on top of that, you need Ana to counter that Hawaiian bastard. So the dev comment for this reads that AR will still be able to see this UI alert, but allies generally don't need to, as it could occur fairly often and be distracting. So your allies are no longer going to see the destroyed UI whenever the healing pylon breaks. I'm okay with that. It was a little bit annoying and distracting. I mean, I just chalked it up to just visual clutter, and Overwatch has a lot of it. It wasn't like a game-breaking deal for me, but again, QOL changes are always welcome. Lastly, but certainly not least, Zenyatta. The dev comment reads for this, we are reducing the cost of Transcendence as Zenyatta was impacted more than most by some of the changes in this patch. So Transcendence ultimate cost has been decreased by 10%. I don't think this matters realistically, because Transcendence as an ultimate kind of just sucks. I mean, obviously it's gonna matter because, you know, you're gonna get your Transcendence earlier, but 99% of the time, whenever you pressure a Zenyatta, they're just gonna trans early to try to prolong the fight and try to prolong themselves to, keep themselves in the fight a little longer, reposition, and then the fight's gonna continue from there. If you want Transcendence to be a reliable ult, I would either increase the cast duration, or increase the channel duration, excuse me, not the cast, increase the channel duration, or increase the healing per second. And it's been like this for a while. Like, you can still shoot, like, especially with the DPS passive on, you can shoot and kill people through the Zenyatta ultimate, and it's been like that before the DPS passive existed. Like, Zenyatta's ultimate has always been historic. I can't say always, but it's been low heals for a while. I don't know how they would have to rework it. I think that if, again, it just had a longer cast, it would actually compete with other defensive ults, like a sound barrier, for example. I think it'd be fine. Again, I don't know anything. So here we are. So yeah, going back, looking at all these buffs and these changes and whatnot, I think the biggest winner for these patches, or for this patch, is anyone who queues for the tank role. Everyone getting like some type of damage, some type of durability, and then the DPS passive only being 10% now is insane. We're no longer on Pharah watch. We're probably still going to be on Maga watch because, 100% lifesteal. They think that's balanced for whatever reason, I guess. I don't know. But I think the biggest losers of this patch is everyone else. I mean, realistically, even though they got nerfed, I think Ana's gonna be fine. Pharah won't be an absolute menace to society. People might actually play Ashe a little bit more. It's weird because Ashe, I feel like she's been struggling ever since the the initial DPS passive was reverted, and that was, if you don't remember, it was the increased reload time whenever they got an elim. So I would like if they want to increase Ashe's like play rate, I think if they put that as like a passive, like a secondary passive for her. So like whenever she gets an elim, this might be a bit too much, but I think if she were to get an elim, like a good passive to introduce to Ashe would be like, if she's scoped in and she gets an elim from that, then maybe she would, maybe her reload time would be increased for like maybe a second if she reloads in that, after that elim. Again, that's just me spitballing. Who knows? Maybe that might be too much. I just don't know why they buffed every tank. This might be a different video, but tank, like the tank role isn't bad per se, it's just unfun. This role isn't fun to play. Like, making tanks like these raid bosses, I'm not sure if that's gonna help or hurt the role overall, because like I don't know. It means that I can flame my tank if they die 11 times for sure, but overall I'm not sure if this is the play. I don't know about this one. We'll see. This is a big old question mark for me.